Louise Bedford here, the money chick and the host of the Talking Trading podcast. This is how traders excel. Just imagine trying to trade while blindfolded, where you're feeling emotionally rattled, where people are shouting at you in 5 different languages. And that is how trading feels to so many people until they discover the works of Van K. Tharp. Now, for me, I loved finding Van K. Tharp's special report on money management way back in about 1996. It changed the way I viewed trading forever. Now, unfortunately, Van Tharp passed away in 2022, and his passing spread a ripple of a shockwave through the trading community. We all very much noticed what a void that would leave. But luckily for us, Gabriel Grammatidis stepped up. Gabriel Grammatidis isn't just a student of Van Tharp. He's one of the most accomplished super trader graduates, and he's a long-time instructor at the Van Tharp Institute, and now he's a mentor dedicated to carrying forward Van Tharp's work. So here are 3 reasons why you need to listen to my conversation with Gabriel. The first one is to hear insider lessons from Van Tharp's top student. The way that we learn is by learning from OPE, other people's experiences, and you're going to learn from Gabriel with this. The second reason is to discover the biggest psychological mistakes that traders are still making today, which can decimate a trader's account. And the third reason is to learn the new methods, helping traders become consistent within just a period of 12 months. So Gabriel has got a lot to share with us so that we can achieve these goals. And whether you've been influenced by Van Tharp for years, or if this is the first time you've ever heard his name, you're going to get so much out of this interview. And these insights are going to help you improve as a trader. Gabriel's perspective is both deeply practical and psychologically profound, and you'll hear why so many traders credit him with transforming their accounts in just 12 months. So let's step inside Van Tharp's legacy and into the frontier of trading psychology with Gabriel Grammatidis, and a special thanks to Esther Nagy, a member of my mentor program, for suggesting that I follow up with Gabriel. If you have anybody that you'd like to hear an interview on this show with me, then please do let me know, because I take those interview suggestions very seriously. I will continue to work as hard as I can to bring you the people that you love and that are going to drive your trading forward. So let's go. Gabriel, welcome to Talking Trading.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, you spent years learning directly from Van Tharp, and then you became an instructor and a coach at his institute. I'd love to know more about what pulled you in with Van Tharp's philosophies.
Yeah, so what pulled me in was his systems thinking. When thinking about trading, trading is not only an entry or an exit signal, well, there's much more to that. So trading is a profession, and you need to approach it in a professional way, basically. The other thing was that Van Tharp was a modeler, a psychologist and a modeler, and he was modeling very famous traders and seeing what common traits they have that made them successful. And then when you know that, well, then you can teach it, right, to others.
I think there's something in that, because really when people are looking to educate themselves, you do have to cherry pick. You have to follow the people that are doing well so that you can implement their suggestions and their ideas into your own trading. So looking back now, what do you think the most enduring impact Van Tharp had on your trading or even your teaching style?
Yeah, well, on my trading, it was basically the concept of awareness. It's really important when you're trading that you have awareness about yourself, about your thoughts, right? But as well awareness of what is going on in the market. So you want to be a bit in the flow with the market, but as well be in sync, right? As far as teaching is concerned, it's the whole idea of psychology, the impact of psychology, and mental state that has on trading, because it's very much underlooked. I mean, once a trader develops into a mature trader, there's a big impact of mental state. It's a little bit similar of a Formula One driver. He might be perfect technically, but then what differentiates the good ones from the best ones? Well, it's a mental state.
I've got a guy that's joined my mentor program, Reed, his name is, and he's a motocross bike rider. Oh my goodness, imagine the mental state you'd need with that, because it's life and death. That's really, I think, with trading too, is that we can make a lot of mistakes and we don't really necessarily learn with clarity, because sometimes those mistakes will get rewarded for, and other times the market teaches us a lesson and says, no, no, no. Your systems are very much known for their structure and their clarity. I think that's really where I first heard about you, actually, with that clear, structured thinking. So what are your personal processes when you're developing and building and refining a trading system?
I think clarity and structure for a system is really important, because once you start trading a system, well, it gets complicated pretty soon, right? Once you scratch on the surface. But for developing a system, I'm actually applying it. I think it's a different approach, right? I think it's more an intuitive approach, a brainstorming approach, and it's a bit chaotic as well and very intuitive. So I'm basically coming from 100 different directions in order to find, okay, what might be the edge, and then find out how can this edge be put into a rule set and be tested, right, in order to, I mean, finally it becomes into production. So it's kind of an intuitive process of trial and error. And well, my traders might be surprised. Well, they are surprised when they hear about that. Because teaching, I'm very structured, right? But system developing, it's much more chaotic, yeah, and creative.
Are you following a hunch because you've seen something work? So then you go, okay, then I'll look and see further. Is this going to work over a larger data set?
Yeah, that comes from different angles. It can be a hunch, something I see in the market. I get surprised. Oh, that's a repeated pattern. Let's see if that's something that repeats like constantly, permanently, and how we can capitalize on that edge. Another way is to actually, I mean, one of my systems is deduced purely from beliefs about the market, like useful beliefs, from which then an edge can be drawn. So yeah, systems can be built from different angles. Yeah.
What's one of those beliefs?
One belief is that traders like to counter trend trade. Like every beginning trader, naturally, that's human psychology, wants to counter trend trade. Well, if you build a profitable system, well, it's obviously not a counter trend trading system. Well, ideally, and my system one is a system that trades against counter trend trade. It's a breakout failure system, right? Breakout against against the trend, and then go in with the trend, but the failure of the breakout. That's basically one of that's a great example.
That is a great example. I do think the same thing with candlestick patterns. You know, I love candles. So when you've got a very clear candlestick pattern that's got like a setup, the trigger and the confirmation, if that fails, that's giving you a very clear signal. You have to consider that that did not work. Why not? And what can you do to capitalize on that? So I like that you're thinking in that way. It's like you've got that scientific method where you're starting with a whole heap of different theories and then you're zeroing in on the ones that actually make money. So I think that's an exceptional way to do it. And I know you do trade breakouts. This is something that you and I share, and you look at price action patterns. And you blend that technical analysis side where we're looking at price and volume with psychology in a very unique way. How did you arrive at that approach?
Yeah. Well, in my early years of trader development, I traded the markets. I call it the kung fu style. Like I could go long and short anytime, very intuitive, right? And well, what happens is that the traders get trapped into market traps, right? Like they get in. I mean, the market chases them. They feel the urge or the FOMO to take a trade, and they find themselves to get into a bad trade or get stopped out of a good trade. Well, these are the typical market traps, basically, we are looking for to trade against the majority of traders who are wrong, right? The markets are counterintuitive, and typically you wanna go with a small percentage of traders that is right.
Yeah, definitely. I guess where you're coming from, though, is you're talking a lot about intuition, where you've got an idea that this could work. How can traders manage that to look at their intuition, if it's based on experience, and stay mechanical with their approach?
Yeah, when Tharp talked about that, intuition and intuition, that's two very different things, right? If you trade like intuitive without much experience, well, that's intuition, and the result is not good because the markets are counterintuitive to human behavior, to human thinking, right? So good intuition basically requires at least 3 months of trading a system, so you get an expert and you get an inner feeling what works and what works not. Um, like the systems we trade are rule-based discretionary. So there's always the discretionary part. There's always some intuition with it. For example, I mean, a multi-bar pattern, there's some quality criteria that goes along, and it requires some intuition, right? The trade-off between different quality criteria. So this is where it comes into play. But we have traders that trade more intuitive than others. And if you're really good applying your intuition to the markets, you can make more than 100 hours. Like 1 hour, if you trade 1 hour is 1%, you can make more than 100 hours per week if your intuition is really good. Yeah.
I hope you don't mind me asking, but how did it go after Van Tharp passed away? Because it must have been such a hard time for you. You'd worked closely with him, you'd professionally been quite enmeshed with Van Tharp. How did you cope with that?
Well, Van Tharp passed away in February 2022, pretty suddenly. And well, he was not only my mentor and coach, he was like a friend or a fatherly figure for me as well. So yeah, it was a surprise, but I mean, he would love his instructors to continue on, right, doing the work. And I got as well the feedback from my students because I was thinking, well, should I stop and focus on my own trading? And then I decided, no, I'm continuing doing this and yeah, training, teaching traders.
I had a similar situation where one of my mentors was Dr. Harry Stanton. And Harry Stanton, I'd just worshipped this man since the age of 15, and to become close friends with him as a trader was amazing. And when he passed away, I made a purposeful decision to step away from the markets for 3 months. It shook me. It shook me to my core. I was expecting him to pass away as well. It wasn't like I didn't say my goodbyes. I was very much there understanding what was happening. But I think sometimes grief can foul up your trading. What would your advice be if somebody that they really care for has an emotional shock, or perhaps they've passed away, or someone that perhaps that trader is relating to in some way, that there's a disjoint in the relationship? Would you suggest continue on trading or to take a break?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point. Van talked about that as well. Like if somebody passes away that is close to you, well, definitely you want to stay out of the market. That's one of the top tasks of trading that Van Tharp talked about. Yeah, stay out of the market and process, right? Process the emotions. That's really important. Yeah, or demo trade, right? Get out of putting money on the table.
Because I think what happens when we are in an emotional state, especially in grief, there is a disjoint between what we think is clarity of our actions and actually how we are behaving. Sometimes we don't even notice that that can be the case. I know you've described the cool, calm, and confident method, the CCC method, and you've said that that's a core psychological anchor. How does a trader recognize when they're in that cool, calm, and confident state? And how can they profit from that? And I'd love to hear your thoughts about some habits that our traders can use to strengthen that state.
Mm-hmm. Well, most traders are not in the CCC state, right? They're not cool, well, they're emotional. They're not calm, they're excited. And they're not confident, well, they're insecure. Most traders are like that. And trading in such a state is actually not very nice. It doesn't feel good. And if you're in a cool, calm, and confident state, well, you're basically, I mean, you're the captain of your trading. You don't let yourself be pushed around by the market. If you miss a good trade, it develops into a big profit. Well, you couldn't care less about it because you know there are more of these things coming. So that's a state of being cool, calm, and confident. And yeah, we put quite some focus on that. It starts already when like teaching people in the workshop, because it's a conditioning, right? You want to condition people to get used to such a good state for trading.
And being in that middle type of line, if you're euphoric, then you're going to take too many trades and everything's going to look like, hey, that's a fantastic opportunity, even though it's a dog. But then if you're in the depressive side of that continuum, then nothing will be good enough and you think that you're not worthy anyway. So controlling that pendulum swing from one emotional state to another, I think is what you're talking about as well, that ability to stay focused and to take that objective line.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you've got a big results trade, you might get easily euphoric, right? And then suddenly you're not in a good state anymore, or you might have two losses in a row, and you start to get angry, and you might start to revenge trade again. Not a good state, right? Ideally, like I mean, emotions come and go, right? You don't want the emotion to build up frustration. That happens quite a bit, right? And then on day 4, somebody takes a trade he would otherwise never do, well, because frustration had built up, right? So when the emotion comes, well, it's basically, welcome it and let it go, right? And get back to your good state. That's basically how ideally it works. Yeah.
I think one of the habits that people can use to help with that state too is physical exercise. You know, I find that I need a lot of exercise to be able to just even stay normal. So, what other habits should people develop to be
Yeah.
able to stay in that state?
Right. Well, very important is the morning trading preparation. So there's a preparation process, right? Before you even open the chart, it's very comparable to an athlete, right? Before he competes. Well, he's going through some preparation process. I mean, you can see it, right? They're doing some mental thing, they're doing some physical thing, stretching, etc., doing sports, right? All this is important and very individual to the trader. So he needs to find out what works well for him. Meditation is definitely part of it. It might only be a 5-minute meditation, right? That is good. And the other thing is, well, when you are at your trading desk and you find, oh, you're slipping out of your good mental state, well, awareness again, right? Awareness is so important. You're slipping out of it. The easiest thing to do is a state break, like walk away from the trading desk, right? And drink something and then come back again.
Yeah, yeah, because sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you don't even realize you need that break,
Right.
and that can foul up your consistency.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big one for trader consistency. You do say that that's one of the key factors for success, but most traders overlook this step. What happens when they overlook it?
Yeah. Well, most traders actually look at output, right? I mean, their goal is to maximize their profits of the day. Or their goal is to take as many trades as possible, which is even worse. Trader consistency, we focus more on the process, and that's what works in trading. And well, how do we find consistency? Well, we have got a weekly target, let's say 2 hours per week, which is not a stretch goal, right? It's a target that can be achieved even if the market is not doing that well. But then it's about consistency. How often do you achieve that weekly target? So we're talking about the percentage, right, of being able to achieve a target that is not a stretch goal. And this is important because once you achieve consistency, then not only you develop confidence, but then you apply your position sizing. Then you can increase the size you trade, right?
We've got to be so structured and so regimented, don't we, as traders, to make a buck? It's funny how that
Yeah.
goes. And I know you've put a very strong emphasis on simulations and practicing, but a guided practice. What's the difference between your approach with that and just paper trading, where people say, okay, I'm going to take this trade, I'll write it down in my book and I'll practice, but without money? What's your approach with this?
Yeah. Well, paper trading without a purpose and a goal, it's basically what is called in literature, it's naive practice, right? And people can take like 10 years without making measurable progress trading the markets. So it's not very good. Another approach is learning through osmosis. That happens a lot with prop trading firms, where like they put a novice trader next to a very like an experienced trader, and then let's look how he's doing it. Well, again, right, it's very difficult for this novice to pick up hundreds of things that are going on at the same time. And the idea with deliberate practice is basically cutting the whole process down in little chunks and then going like starting with a small chunk and then starting with the next chunk. Once two chunks are learned like in a perfect way, well, then it's about integrating two chunks and going to the third chunk and the fourth chunk. So it's basically a method to go slow in order to be very fast in the end. Right?
I like that. Going slow to be fast. It's counterintuitive in some
right,
ways.
exactly. But I just wanted to say again,
Yeah.
counterintuitive, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And you have helped so many traders go from very random results to consistent profits. What would be some of the turning points or the aha moments that traders make?
Yeah. In the beginning, I was just teaching, and then I understood, okay, something else is needed, and I came up with deliberate practice and simulation technology. And I mean, key things and an ahas as well developed over the years coaching. And I think very important to me and my traders are the 12 key success factors. These are factors as well. Some of those are very counterintuitive that traders should implement to really excel with trading. And if an experienced trader, let's say, he might only implement two or three of those, and it might turn around their trading. So trading is it's interesting, right? If you change a little thing, it might have a big impact. You never know what it might be. Yeah.
And one of the things that I think it can be is where you can remove sources of friction. I remember seeing the results from one of my traders, and he was trading several different systems, but there was one system that was creating a drag on the other systems. So that was his favorite system, though. He loved that system. So when I said, you need to move away from that system is doing you no favors, I could see he was just so frustrated with me because that was his favorite system. But he did it. He actually stepped away from that system, and the other systems just went beautifully after that. It's almost like we get to these blockages, and unless somebody can help us clear that blockage, we can't progress. I'm sure you would have seen that sort of thing with your own students.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's as well the fear of success, right? That people are creating their own obstacles. Van talked about that. He called it dancing with the obstacle, right? That's very common. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a nice experience you had with your student. Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's great when you can knock it out of the park for somebody and it's just a minor change. How do you get traders to move past, say, performance anxiety or perfectionism? Because I think this industry attracts a lot of introverts, people who are engineers and very structured in their approach and very rules oriented, which I love too. I'm married to an engineer. I just adore engineers. However, for traders, that can sometimes trip us up, especially when you're placing a trade. How do you help traders move past that perfectionism?
Yeah. Well, in the developed world, we are conditioned, right, to be perfect while not making mistakes, getting good approval from teachers and parents. This doesn't help traders. That doesn't put you in a good state. And as you mentioned, how we get rid of it? Well, trading is basically it's about confidence and letting go of this perfectionism. Because trading can never be perfect. Trading is frustration management. You could always get a better entry. You could always get a better exit. You could always have put a higher position size to capitalize more. So it can never be perfect, and it's not very fair to you, to the trader, to expect that. So it's really perfectionism is one of the things, especially for deliberate practice, because deliberate practice is based on making small failures, making small mistakes, like a little boy or girl falling on his knees, right? Not hurting him, but falling down and standing up and learning from. And I can see it that people in the beginning, when we apply deliberate practice, it's not an easy process because they want to reconnect with their basically how they were as a child when they were able to grow at an exponential speed. Children do that. And we basically want to go back to that, not the teaching style we learn at school. That's linear learning. It's more dynamic approach to the practice.
And what you're referring to as well is the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset, where the best traders are prepared to realize they don't know it all, but they think that they'll be able to grow into it. Whereas a fixed trader mindset tends to be that if I can't do it now, I'll never be able to do it. And it blocks their results. I want to ask you more about that perfectionism idea, though, because one of the things I've helped my traders do, and I'd like your thoughts as another coach, okay, is you work out if you had have followed every single rule and it had have been the perfect trade, let's say in cocoa, what sort of return could you have got if it had have been the perfect trade, if you had have implemented everything according to your system perfectly? So to do that and to compare it to reality, which is what you actually did do, I think can be useful. However, do you think that that's something that can set people up to think that they have to be perfect?
Yeah. Yeah, when you enter a trade, well, you basically need to let it go, right? Because you don't have, well, you only have control over getting into the trade and moving the stop. But the market basically gives and takes. Sometimes it's working much better than you would have ever expected. Sometimes you think, well, that might not be a great trade, and it develops your best trade of the year. And sometimes the market is not that generous, and a perfect trade might even stop you out. But it's about letting go. And a good state of mind is like being a student of the market and not trying to force your will upon it, because that creates even more resistance, right? And it doesn't help your mental state. So trading is about letting go, right, on many levels.
It's that careful Zen level of patience that we're trying to achieve. Yeah. And I wonder how it's going to be impacted with AI. So with artificial intelligence, there are some tools that are being developed in the markets, and it's a pet project of mine, to be honest. I love hearing about AI. What are your thoughts about how AI is going to impact traders? How will it impact your teaching? And do you feel that the things that we're both teaching our traders, will they be as relevant?
I think it depends a lot on the system. I mean, talking about my systems, I don't think that AI will destroy an edge or something like that or capitalize on it. My trade ideas are based on human psychological flaws. And still, I mean, the market is dominated by buyers and sellers, right? And they push the button. I mean, depending on their emotions. Sure, I mean, probably AI will excel in small segments like high frequency trading, etc. I don't see that with the visual pattern recognition systems that we do. And it's actually quite difficult to build a 100% algorithm automated around these.
I agree. I've aimed to fulfill that with algorithmic trading, and there are still things that are tripping points where you can't get the computer to fully recognize particular scenarios, and that is the thing that destroys the edge if you're looking for a completely automated system. So I still personally think that by training our brains and by getting good with patterns and working out what our probabilities are, that's actually a better way to go. Now, I'd love to talk about the future. Now, I think there's so much to be said for your work with Van Tharp, but I know that you're continuing on that work and putting your own flair into not only the students that you're working with, but also what you're building now with IntuFX. So I'd love to talk about this. What do you think of as the future for you and for your students?
Well, the future, what our mission is to develop successful, consistent traders in less than a year. And I mean, thinking back, like, I don't know, 5 or 10 years, that was unimaginable, right? And we see that now, I mean, getting quicker and quicker, supported by technology, simulation technology, right, and process, deliberate practice. And what we add as well is Tharp think concepts. And yeah, the experience I bring to the table. I mean, obviously that's important to our group. The 12 key success factors, right? That has speed up the time for people to. I mean, even novices, and I've novices and experienced traders. I don't even see a big difference, right? I mean, even a novice can be consistently profitable in less than 6 months, right? It depends on the person as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think having the ability to transmit information in a way that can create a fast learning environment has made such a difference,
Yeah.
So we've talked about Van Tharp's legacy. Gabriel, what do you want your legacy to be?
I really have a big passion about trader development. I've developed myself. I basically built what I would have liked when I developed as a trader, right? This roadmap. And I have a passion for helping traders do that, make their path smooth, and do it quickly, right? In less than a year. Well, that's the mission. Sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it takes a bit longer. But my legacy is basically to leave that to the trading world and psychology, because once a trader gets more and more mature, well, we start to work on psychology and beliefs. That's basically the core competence. Once you start working on beliefs, well, you can see that you get a lot of positive changes, not only for your trading, but as well for your relationships, right, and personal life. Like things get easier because you become easier going, right? If you let go of perfectionism, I guess everybody understands what the impact might be.
And Gabriel, I know there will be a lot of people who are going to want to stay in touch. What would you suggest would be the next step?
I actually can offer everybody to take the free Tharp Trader test. The test was developed by Dr. Van Tharp some 20 years ago when he worked with the turtle traders, like modeling great traders. And he has given it to me. Well, his wife has given it to me, and I'm very happy to provide that to the trading community. There are 15 different trader types, and each one has its strengths and challenges. It's a detailed 6-page trader type report for the person who took the test.
So if you're the person listening to this and you're curious about that trader test, go to tharptradertest.com. tharptradertest.com. Any parting words, Gabriel?
Well, thanks a lot, Luis. It was really good talking to you and sharing our insights.
Well, I hope that interview left you as inspired as I am. We have been collecting so many beautiful Google reviews, and it's mainly through our tradinggame.com.au website. And if you'd like to give a Google review, just like Philip Ladson, we would love that. Philip says, I completed the mentor program in 2015 and gained so much knowledge and understanding. And as the saying goes, you never stop learning, and with the trading game, they never stop giving, so you never stop learning. Such a great place to start your trading future or to advance what you already know. And with the talking trading sessions that are put out each week, along with Chris's daily blog, it's just a trading fest of information and support. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for your kind words, Philip. And it's a wonderful thing to have you as a part of our mentor program community.